So I guess before we dip into the tag title match at chapter 112, I wanted to ask before you came to Progress and how both of you had like a kind of extended break. How was it like stepping back into the ring after so long, especially with crowds not being there and obviously you Lykos II coming out of retirement?
For me, it was an odd one because I'd obviously not. I wasn't sure about if I was going to be able to come back or anything. I obviously had to retire because I had to have the major surgery on my shoulder. Once I knew it was a viable option, it was it was in and out of like good and bad. Like I went and started training like with you and like a bunch of other people just to try and get some ring fitness. And the thing that was the most difficult thing was like the pandemic because obviously with physiotherapy and stuff, they discharged everyone who wasn't like in the hospital and stuck in the hospital and needed it. So like I was just recovering blindly for a long period. So like I knew I could wrestle at this point, but I didn't know when I'd be able to. So I was just constantly planning for random times I couldn't know if I'd meet because I was just trying to work on my recovery myself. But once I got in the ring regularly and started rolling, it was just fine after the races. What about you?
I think it was a case of it was almost like a weird feeling of it was unnatural to not wrestle for so long, especially after training constantly and like traveling constantly and being on shows constantly. And then it was literally the longest time in like my career that I've not had like 2 feet in a wrestling ring. It was literally the longest period. I'm like, my first session back was almost like difficult in a way of like, I've just forgotten how everything works. It was such a strange. Yeah. Obviously, nothing compared to you because you had like double the time.
I relate though because it's just like there's muscle memory obviously, but it's just everything is so hard. Like you can run the simplest sequence to try and blow yourself up and feel ready for wrestling, but doing that first time back, it kills you.
There's not a comparison that you can do in the gym. Obviously, like we had gyms like open a little bit and then they closed stuff like that. So, but like there's simply not a comparison of the cardio wise that
wrestling.
You can't do it in a gym. Like the only way to properly build your cardio for wrestling is actually wrestling. So it was difficult, but it felt like I was a lot more thankful for wrestling. There was so much perspective and there was so much time to take. And then getting back into it, it was like, wow, man, like, yeah, this really is for me because I've missed this so much.
Yeah, you appreciate it more for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
When you actually like got back into wrestling matches and stuff like that, was there any like ring rust with specific moves or anything where it was like, oh yeah, I don't remember how to do this or something like that?
I wouldn't say like specific moves because we're dead good. Yeah. Just generally wrestling and getting yourself through a match is very difficult. Because you go so long without getting hit in the face, and then you start to get hit in the face loads. It's a harsh reality that again is not comparable to anything else. Even in wrestling training, it's not really comparable.
Yeah, once you get in the ring for an actual match, like it blows any training you've done out of the water.
It does, yeah.
For me, it was hard because it was like I was coming back and I had to reinvent everything about myself as far as like the moveset and everything. I had to adapt to my circumstances. So there's certain things I could continue doing and have continued to do, but it wasn't necessarily like kinks of like the moves being awkward to do or dying doing them. But it was more just figuring out what I wanted out of wrestling, what I wanted to do in the ring to build my matches and to beat up my opponents really well.
Yeah. When obviously you mentioned there about the retirement and you coming back, when you weren't sure if you were coming back to the ring, obviously we came to see Kid Lykos II come into the fold. What was the decision behind making Joe Nelson the one to like take on the Kid Lykos moniker?
We basically, I know my experience with the Lykos character. When I first started doing it, I was just like a white meat babyface teenage looking boy, like, and that like no, it's not a draw. It's not interesting. You can only go so far. Yeah. But I'd been doing it for 7 years at the time. Like I've been wrestling 7 years, and I was still like seen as this green new kid. And changing to Lykos just changed the whole game for me. I got seen as a wrestler. I got seen as a good professional wrestler, and there is nobody that wrestles as well as Joe Nelson did in that capacity. Like, there was other names thrown about. Like, it was a conversation as well between not just myself, but like with Chris. I would have the conversation, just see who's there. But no one is at the level that he was, and in the same position that I was, because obviously he'd been doing it the same way I had. He'd been doing camps.
Our stories of, I guess, our upbringing in pro wrestling are strangely similar.
Yeah, they're parallels, right?
Yeah,
like,
very, very.
And you've been around for years and years and years and years. You were a veteran at this point, and you were still seen as just a teenage boy.
Yeah.
So like, and the same things happen now. People see Lykos II as a professional wrestler and a damn good one, and rightfully so. So I think the logic behind the decision was, this is a very similar situation to me, and this will help this person break out and be the star that they deserve to be.
Definitely. For you, Lykos II, what did it mean to like continue that sort of legacy of that character?
At the time, it was wild, man. Honestly, like, it was wild because there was so many like points that I can remember from when I was just trying to like network at shows and like show up to just help out, and that he was wrestling at, and I was like, holy shit, man, he's sick. You know, like, I was a fan of Kid Lykos, right? And then we slowly start to build a relationship up, and like, oh, now I get to wrestle on his shows. To me, that was enough. Like, I was like, fantastic, this is cool. You know, like, one of my personal favorite British wrestlers is like a fan and using me on his own product, you know, at Schadenfreude and Friends. And then it was such a strange transition. And I won't lie, it was something that at first I was kind of hesitant on, just because it was terrifying in a way. You know, it was, you see character changing all the time, right?
Yeah.
But you never see something completely different. And I mean, like, flipped on its head. So it was terrifying at first, but honestly, it was maybe the most humbling and like just cool thing to happen to me.
Yeah, you don't see it that way. Like, the only other person who's had a change of that drastic in nature is Cara Noir.
Yeah.
In his transition. Yeah. And it took him 2.5 to 3 years to even get the opportunity. But now you see him and he's a star. And this is the same for Kid Lykos II. But the difference is he's so incredible. You can't deny it. And you can just see it anytime he steps in the ring. Like, you can see it from the bloody lockups. From the lockup to the brainbuster at the end, you can see he's incredible. And you can't deny that. And that's why he's getting the opportunities he is.
For sure. Moving on to the tag title match. Obviously, you two are facing the Young Guns for the Progress Tag Team titles at Chapter 112. And when I was looking into this, I noticed there was an interesting statistic in that if you win this match, you, Lykos I, will become the wrestler with the most Progress Tag Team reigns in history. Do accolades like that add any pressure to this match, or is that more of a motivating factor?
I would say it adds no pressure. I would say, if anything, it's calming, because I've been here countless times before. I've wrestled incredible teams in the past, and I've proven I can do this at the highest standard. Like I've said in promos gone by, I'm the only wrestler in the tournament with legitimate Progress main event and tag title experience. And that's what I've been teaching him. And that's why we're going to the main event. We're going to the final. We're wrestling the Young Guns, who are incredibly annoying as well, but within their right, very good wrestlers, but they're nothing like us. They're not as smart as us. They don't have the knowledge that I possess and that Kid Lykos II possesses. And that's why we're going into it and we're taking the tag titles. And that's why I will become the person with the most Progress Wrestling tag title reigns in history.
Definitely. And like, obviously the last time you held the title, like the last time you defended it anyway, about 3.5 years ago, when you lost to, now testing my knowledge, you lost it anyway. And I really want to ask, what's the difference between the Kid Lykos then, who last defended the title, and the Kid Lykos now, both physically and mentally?
Well, first I want to talk about, I've only ever lost the Progress titles once in my 3 reigns. I've had to vacate them. I've never been pinned to take those belts. The issue at hand is that, yeah, it was 3.5 years ago. And yeah, that's a long time. I'm a different competitor though. Like, I think there was always a worry, even when I was coming back in like the previous injuries and stuff, that it could happen again. The previous surgeries aren't the ones you need in this degree of physicality. And now that I've had something that completely prevents the situation, touch wood, I feel confident in the ring. I don't worry about re-injury. I don't worry about taking hits because I know I'm built for this. And mentally, I'm better than I've ever been. I spent years advancing my wrestling brain whilst not stepping in the ring, working backstage at shows, doing roles that I'm not going to go into, but roles that build matches for other people. And that's how I developed the brain I have for this business. And I think I can apply that and put on a spectacle and be the professional wrestler I know I always wanted to be.
Yeah. So obviously the tag title match coming up, some people might argue that, the Young Guns have the experience edge as a team. They've been together for nearly 3 years now. So what do you two bring to this match that will ultimately lead you to the victory on June 5th?
Well, do you want to say this?
So the fact that the word experience was just mentioned is funny, to be honest, because between us now, there's over 20 years of professional wrestling experience.
Mm-hmm.
You've been wrestling since you were a child.
Mm-hmm.
I have been wrestling since I was a child. We're two of the youngest veterans. We are the youngest veterans in this country, in Europe.
Yeah, for sure.
There's not two professional wrestlers that have the same story as we do. Mm-hmm. There's not two professional wrestlers that have had the same upbringing in wrestling as we do. So the fact that experience as a team is even considered a threat to us is laughable.
They have experience as a team, but their experience in the ring is probably just about as long. They've been together since day one. Like, the natural chemistry between us, for one, incredible. The wrestling ability, incredible. The experience, incredible. We eclipse everything that they have. They could do a fancy wrist lock all they want, but we get in there and we can do anything. You don't know what's going to happen. You've seen our previous incarnations. We can fly about with the best of them. But this man's a technical wizard, but he doesn't get to show it that often. But he can out-wrestle everyone. And that's what we plan on doing. We'll use our brains, we'll use our smarts, our tactics, and we'll go in there and we'll eclipse this tag team experience that they have. Easy.
Say if you do become champions, is there anyone in particular, any teams in particular that you want to defend against? Any goals you have as champions?
I mean, so far, we've beaten everyone that we've wrestled. We're the only team who hasn't lost as a team.
Yeah, no one seems to intrigue me at the moment. Like, I mean, we've beaten veterans like Charlie Sterling and Nick Riley.
We have.
We've beaten newbies and comedy wrestlers like G Money and Big Guns Joe.
Yeah, we've done that too.
I'm sure we could beat laughable wrestlers like the Sunshine Machine. Could easily pin Danny Black, as has been seen. I think, personally, there's no one that intrigues me to wrestle unless you're going to bring in someone ridiculous. I want to wrestle the Motor City Machine Guns. I want to wrestle the Young Bucks. I want to wrestle the Usos. I want to wrestle anyone who's been doing this at a high level like we have. And goals for it's just to carry the Progress Tag Division like we already have been doing on our backs and prove that tag wrestling is the superior style of wrestling and we do it better than anyone else in the UK, let alone Europe.
Definitely. I saw, you mentioned Danny Black there, and I saw on Twitter earlier you were praising your match with him as one of your favourites that you've had since you came back. Alongside him, who else in Progress right now should we be keeping our eyes on as like potential stars of the future?
Lykos Jim.
Always. There's no other names that matter. I'll say, like I said in the tweet, it's very rare I'll say that someone's good, and Danny Black did his best with me, and that's fine.
Try that, bless him.
I'm impressed. I am, because he's very new. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who else is here in Progress. Who should we be watching? Big Guns Joe. Sure. You want to watch him? By all means, give it a shot. But no one is doing it to the standard that we are doing it. So if you're watching Progress Wrestling, you should be watching us, and that's it.
Definitely. I wanted to, as we wind down here, move away from Progress and ask you about one of your matches, one of the crazier matches of your career, when you and Chris Brookes took on Meiko Satomura and Akira Tozawa in Kurikan Hall. What was the whole experience of that like? Because I imagine facing a WWE contracted talent outside of WWE is rare, let alone in Kurikan Hall.
It's a mad one. Like, it's one of the best moments of my life. Tozawa is one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do it. And although some people may say you don't see that now, regardless, you can go back and watch a wrestler who is unparalleled sometimes in the situations. He is an idol of mine, and to get the chance to wrestle him was incredible. Meiko Satomura is a legend. I'll disrespect her all I want in the ring, but I'll be honest, she's a legend of the sport. And to get to wrestle the two of them together, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And to do it as what should have been and realistically was the main event, only due to, logistics of cleaning up glass, couldn't be. It's the main event of that show, in my opinion. It's the main event of Korakuen Hall. And I think it put us on the map. That's why Chris Brookes is in DDT right now. That's why I was meant to be in DDT before my injury. It's because we killed it in front of the people that mattered. And they realized that two British wrestlers can come to Japan and do what they need and do what appeals to them and get the crowd to enjoy our style of professional wrestling. So to wrestle two legends and what came of it, it's incredible. Like, it's, even now looking back at it, I can't believe things that have happened in my career.
You mentioned there about how you were meant to go over to DDT with Chris. Is there any plans for that to now happen now that you're back in wrestling, or is your focus purely on Progress?
I'm solely focused on one thing, and I'm solely focused on Lykos Gym. Wherever Lykos Gym ends up is where Lykos Gym ends up. But right now I'm focused on taking the Progress tag team titles and proving that we are the best tag team going.
To cap us all off, I actually spoke to Eddie Kingston recently, and he mentioned you, Lykos I, as someone he'd like to see in AEW. And obviously we mentioned earlier about how Chris is killing it in DDT. Beyond Progress, where would you guys like to see yourselves in the future? Is there any specific promotions or career goals you have in mind?
I didn't know that about Kingston. That's really nice of him.
That is very nice.
Yeah, that's a genuinely heartwarming thing. I think
he's a nice man.
Eddie Kingston's a real one. Like, you can see on Twitter, he retweets the people he believes are good or good people or his friends. Like, he shows them off to the world now. He's a superstar and he's still looking after the little guy. It's incredible. AEW is a great example. I think we can both say with your relationship with Kip Sabian, 100%. We'd love to be there, and I think we could tear it up with people like Jungle Boy. Obviously, I've mentioned the Young Bucks previously, but who couldn't kill it with them? You know what I mean? I think the tag division, and Angelico and Jack Evans, I've already wrestled them, but I think we'd have a banger. AEW is very appealing, but then there's loads of wrestling everywhere that's incredible. Impact is killing it. Dragon Gate is my favorite promotion of all time, my favorite place to watch, and I'm not speaking for you, but I'm sure it's similar in stature.
Absolutely.
In your regard.
It's right up there.
Like, DDT, obviously, I love and I still appreciate to this day the way they were looking at bringing us in, bringing myself and Chris in. But I'm happy to go anywhere. I just want to prove that we are exceptional professional wrestlers, and I want to prove that we can do it to the highest standard with anyone. Put us anywhere. Send me back to Tijuana with him, and we'll kill it. Bandito, Flamita, Soberano, anyone, we've got it, and we'll kill it with anyone. And I want to prove that to everyone worldwide, America, Japan, Mexico. We can do it.
We are solely confident that beyond any promotion, beyond Progress, beyond AEW, beyond Dragon Gate, that we're the two wrestlers to revive British wrestling.